From the USA to Merseyside and beyond, welcome to the Blue Frontier. Insightful Everton analysis for every Blue with James Boyman, Ryan Williams, and Shan.
Greetings, Toffees. Welcome back to the Blue Frontier. We are back from the international break, and Everton's winless run in the Premier League against Aston Villa, unfortunately, stretches to 13 matches after a goalless draw at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. Remarkably, the Toffees have not beaten Villa in the Premier League since they returned to the top flight, left frustrated again today despite a ton of chances. Before we get into it, just a reminder that if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. Subscribe on YouTube. Give us a like. Comment. We appreciate it all. Follow us on socials. All the links are in the description. And with that, we go to the summary quote of the day. Ryan, go ahead.
I went with Schmub on the Discord. That's fun to say, isn't it? It's a little too close to a former Palace player, though, that I'm happy is no longer around. All right. Fine setup, but poor adjustments by Moyes today. All of his subs were like-for-like changes and little strategy alterations. Would like to have seen Ndiaye at the 10 with Dibbling outright for last 15 minutes. The ref had way too much control over the game. A point is a point, I guess. That's kind of exactly how I feel about it. Without getting way into the tactical aspects of it. When it's going well, it's, maybe shouldn't change too much, but maybe a little last-second change or something a little different might have gotten us over the hump, but it was not to be. But not a terrible performance either way.
Yeah, and for score predictions today, we actually had two, so credit to Rhetoric and Carter after Texan Bobble for predicting a 0-0. No longer the Sean Dyche Toffees, but still a very entertaining 0-0 for everybody watching. So going into the lineups, I'll start with Villa. Villa have a lot of injuries coming into today, which I think benefited Everton. From a tactical standpoint, Unai Emery had to kind of dig deep and think of something different because his starting pair of Boubacar Kamara and Amadou Onana, who we all know well, are both out. So you put in Yuri Tielemans and Lamar Bogard, who's kind of playing a little bit out of position, but I think overall did a decent job today. Then you look at the back four. It's kind of normal for Villa. It's surprised to not see Pau Torres in there, but I think Ryan will get to that in a second. Of course, Emi Martínez, he finds a way to come back to Villa in perfect time. We'll get to him as well. Just had an incredible day for them. But then you get to kind of their front four. Ollie Watkins, of course, is the usual suspect, but this front kind of three with Morgan Rogers in the middle, who's absolutely incredible in regards to having a great season last season. Hasn't really kicked off as well this season, but a very narrow front three as you see John McGinn and Emi Buendia kind of really partner him within the midfield. So from I would say a width standpoint, not something that you're really expected to see with Villa, which I think kind of made me curious of our chances today because I felt like we definitely didn't get Villa's strongest lineup going into today. That's not only injuries. I think it's just also, too, given some of the guys they lost of course, you think of the loans that they had, Marco Asensio and Marcus Rashford, but then also, too, it just seemed like very hamstrung this summer when it came to making moves.
Yeah, and maybe this is a byproduct of big wages in the past and some financial fair play PSR issues, but I don't think Harvey Elliott and Jadon Sancho are great substitutes for them. But that being said, Sancho didn't see the match. I don't really know what's going on there. Madsen didn't play either. That's a really talented player. Two keepers on the bench. I guess that indicates there's injuries, but not massive depth here, I guess. I can't argue with getting a big fee for Ramsey. Like, that made some sense. They lost Bailey. He's kind of a bum, but, had some talent at least. He wasn't a stiff. I don't understand loaning out Illing Jr. But remember when we did the season preview, we suggested there are 8 teams out there that are going to be very difficult to displace from an Everton standpoint if Everton has a great year. This was one of the 8. If Pau Torres is crocked, it sounds like he may not really anytime soon recover for some of his injuries. This is a very different team. They seem pretty limited. And obviously those two defensive midfielders are really good, but this team on paper, you're thinking at home, we got a legitimate chance here.
You certainly are, and that's even before you get to the Everton team. But I agree, Ryan, if this is the quality of lineup Villa's consistently forced to put out and those options off the bench don't really materialize into anything, their spot could be up for grabs very well. I think that's likely.
Yeah, I like Hassan. I think you saw his impact
Hassan
today.
looked very good today.
I think once they kind of ease him in, he's more of a right winger but can play center forward. Maybe that's a difference maker for him. And maybe Sancho just isn't up to speed on what they want to do yet. I don't know. But anyway, we had our issues too, though, right, with our lineup and had to compromise some things as well.
Yes, 100%. Neither team able to field their preferred lineup. And I think you look at the Everton side, Mykolenko, we know, went out on Ukraine duty and then was immediately sent back after having his injury assessed. So unfortunately looks to have re-aggravated it. No Mykolenko. As a result, you see James Garner again at left back, and that pulls Timur Abunam into central midfield alongside Idrissa Gana Gueye. Otherwise, a pretty unchanged team. Ndiaye still on the right, Dewsbury Hall at that second striker 10 position, Jack Grealish on the left. Beto gets the nod again, understandably so, I think. And then we know that Jared Branthwaite is still a few weeks out from returning to action, and so you see Michael Keane retain his spot. All fair, all reasonable. I do think the bench just continues to look stronger. You, of course, saw Merlin there, who would make a substitute appearance. Dibbling, unused substitute. Just a much stronger bench. And no two keepers for Everton, so we get to see the other team have to struggle with depth options for once.
Yeah, and then we get into our key matchups. And I think you can really almost replicate the key matchups for both teams. Of course, for us, Beto versus Tyrone Mings and Ezri Konsa. But then on the opposite side, right, Ollie Watkins' speed getting in behind both Tarkowski and Keane. So I think from a physicality standpoint, from Beto, how would he kind of wrestle with those two center backs? I think, as we saw, just really did not get a whistle today. But of course, we can talk about that endlessly with Simon Hooper. But then on the same token, right, Ollie Watkins' speed getting in behind both Tarkowski and Keane, who I think, of course, Michael Keane has had a great start to the season. But I think when we think of the situations that a team like Villa can score, would probably be on the counterattack. And then you get into, I think, the midfield battle, which is just very interesting. Of course, you got Lamar Bogard playing a little bit out of position with Tielemans, which I think, looking at on paper, compared to Boubacar Kamara and Amadou Onana, we feel a lot better with Ghana and Tim starting. And of course, Tim, give him credit. He's been really battling, and I think playing overall pretty decently when you think of just kind of where we thought of him coming into the season.
I'm trying to hold the magician comments for later. But I think one thing that does help them a little bit, say Pau Torres still needs to continue to recover from injury. Mings is a better matchup against Beto. I mean, he can match his physicality to some extent. Beto had some good moments in transition today, let us down in the final third a bit, but in their defense, Mings is probably the right guy to play in that matchup. Yeah, it was a strange match, though. It's hard going into this one to see it knowing that you had some kind of different lineups. And but I'll say this, though. I think we started off very, very well here. And, with this Everton team, obviously last year we struggled to score goals. We've scored a couple this year, but still you got this feeling where you need to take your chances. You're not going to generate that many of them. And maybe looking back at this first 15, 20 minutes, it might have somewhat been the match a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there were certainly opportunities for Everton to make a decisive move early. Just in the second minute, Beto has really what amounts to a huge chance in the context of the game, and it's Ndiaye and Beto who combine in the build-up. Ndiaye with a good pass inside to Beto. He kind of hits it into his other foot and wide, which is a little clumsy. It's kind of a tough pass because it's right to, it sounds crazy, directly to his feet, so he can't really move to adjust himself. He's kind of planted. But Beto was really important there. That is a big chance. That's 0.37 XG. You're right almost. You really just have to touch it for it to go in, and he can't quite manage it. And then Mings goes down injured. I feel like every time I watch Aston Villa, Mings goes down with an injury scare, and I know he's had his troubles, but he, of course, would be able to continue. And then Villa, kind of their own worst enemy just a few minutes later, playing out deep from their end. Good pressure from Everton high. We win it back. Ghana takes a shot that's deflected. Falls to Grealish, who loops it to the far post, and then Beto gets on the end of that cross. It's a really good ball from Grealish, and Beto does well to kind of rise up. Forces a fantastic save from Emi Martínez. I don't know. He doesn't get credit for this one, but Beto doesn't, that is, but it's a really good opportunity.
It's just a lot of the good and bad with Beto. You know what I mean? It is what it is. He'll have these great moments, especially in transition. Obviously, he played to his feet. It's normally fine. Some of the stuff in the air he doesn't do so great with. And he'll have some good finishes and some bad ones. And unfortunately, today was not his day. He didn't hold the ball up all that well, but the chances came early. And, if you don't make them, you don't. It is what it is.
There's this play in the 14th minute that I just called out. It didn't really amount to much, but starts with Grealish, and he takes that little sort of chip dribble and skates by his man, and then kind of runs into some traffic, and we rotate the ball to the right side, and Ndiaye dynamically takes on two guys and beats them with physicality and pace, and it just highlighted to me, I know we'll talk about Ndiaye on the right later on in the summary, but the dynamism and attacking ability that we have on either flank just continues to be really, really encouraging.
Yeah, Tyler Dibling's been really effective for us. Anyway, so no, look, it was a cheeky move by Jack. Yeah, I mean, look, the first 15 minutes were all Everton, right? I mean, that's it. Just the bottom line, capped off from this kind of long throw from Jake, flicked on by Keane. Beto shot blocked. This is one where Beto does really well with the first touch, sets himself up, spins. We've seen him miss the net with those quite a bit. It's just hard to get his big body around, but he does it really well here. And then this is the one where Grealish, then it comes back out to him, forces a save from Martínez. I mean, Emi at this point, in the first 15 minutes is looking like player of the match, right? 5 shots to nothing. 56% possession for Everton, 87% pass success. I want to go back to that in a little bit. And it's all Everton at this point, too. I mean, you kind of think, I don't know if I'd point to one singular chance where I said, man, that's the one we have to score. Maybe it was just because our finishing wasn't good, but we're all over them at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of goes back to, I think, the Beto chance in the first 2 minutes. When you rewatch the highlights, I think that's the one. And it's just a shame, too, because I think the things that we criticize him on in terms of the link-up play and whatnot, I think he was doing a pretty good job there. But the finishing, of course, just not good. And you wonder, right, if he scores that, the game is completely changed, because it just felt like, I think, more of a tactical battle of two teams not trying not to kind of, really concede. And, of course, right, I think one thing that we didn't mention is the international break, right, and guys coming back into the fray. It's always going to be a little bit clunky. I mean, you look at the score lines today, but then Villa, of course, start to creep back into it, right? I think when you dominate for that time of, that period of time, you're going to start to kind of concede a little bit in regards to the press and just the foothold of the game. And then, of course, Everton kind of get back into it a little bit. I will say this, in terms of our long throws, very impressive today as a whole. The attacking move from our long throw in the 31st minute ends in a corner, and then Michael Keane, of course, just heads it over on just the theme of the day in regards to just our headers today. But a good chance.
I thought the service from corners is pretty good too, right? I mean, you get this yellow on Caddy Cash here, clearing out Grealish, and that was about the only time they seemed to give Jack the benefit of the doubt after this point. You're thinking, that's a matchup we can exploit. I don't know how well we did it after that, especially during this period. I feel like we were just kicking the ball around at times, but big corner for us in the 43rd. This is one where Tielemans kind of looks up at Tark afterwards after he deflected it, thinking like, wow, you're going to score that, aren't you? And he's like, yep, for sure. Second corner, ball comes out to Ghana, and, men and women, children, right, duck out of there. Yeah, I think this was American football style. Maybe he has a second career there. I'm just saying. And then Villa get their one kind of big chance here. They did nothing with it, but stupid foul by Tim kind of outside the box. Tim actually I thought was okay today, but he still has these moments where that one, I thought he was okay, but he lets the ball get past him. His awareness lacks, his angle sometimes, he gets too high on guys. Overall, I thought he was okay. And then the foul throws. What is going on here? I felt like I was watching like a and it was blatantly obvious to me.
2 foul throws and a half. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw that. You're lucky it's rare to see one in a game.
U10.
That is basic fundamental stuff that Unai Emery clearly neglecting in training. You got to practice those throw-ins.
Yeah, I just think the first half, though, as good as we were early, Villa did start to kind of come into it, but I don't think it's a lot of what they did. And this is kind of, I think, the frustration for me in terms of this game. I just felt like there were times where we did create a lot of chances, but we didn't control the match when I think we could have very easily, especially eventually when the 2 fullbacks got yellows. So for the first 24 minutes, first half of the first half, it was mostly Everton, right? 87% passing, like we said before, and after that, it was 67%. Pickford was 4 of 10 on long balls in the first half. Why? He had outlets all over the place. Now, part of it's pushing Jake up, and now you don't have a sidecar, so if you kind of kick it over to Tark, the build-up's not quite there. But after the 24-minute, it was even in shots. I mean, Pick was 57% in passing. No one else is under 71, even Beto. So I just think there were opportunities for us to get a foothold in this match. We'll get to the second half as well, but last 10 minutes was 74% Villa possession. I don't know. I mean, Beto, I think, was still the story a little bit in the first half, guys. I mean, 5 bad touches, but some of it's maybe playing it to him in situations that weren't the greatest. And I don't know. Did you guys feel the same way I did? Like we kind of got out of what was making us successful in kind of the second half of the first half?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard with Beto because I think there are times where the pass into him might not have been the greatest, but you can make the argument, right, where it's like I think a good forward would try to make something to do with that. It just wasn't his day. Yeah,
right,
it wasn't his day. It wasn't his day. Like I think it's okay to say that, right? And I think from our standpoint, right, it's one of those days we needed him to be a little bit more clinical because he did get the chances to him. But in regards to the way we came out, I was really impressed, right? Because you look at the stats to start for the first half. I mean, 1.1 expected XG. I don't think they counted that Emi chance, right? So I mean, you put that even in there.
They did
8
not.
total shots, right? 1 big chance for us. Of course, it's probably the first one, and then of course we did a good job of piling up corners, right? So I think that was another thing that was impressive to me. I liked the link-up play with a bunch of our guys and thought that we were doing a good job of being aggressive very smartly. If we didn't see it, we passed it back and then kind of built it back up. XG and open play, we beat them 0.34 to 0.12, right? So, and then the set play, right? We're we don't need Charlie Adam to really get some good quality XG from set plays. So I thought overall we did a good job. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but at the same time, I never really felt scared even when Villa started to build back into the game.
Yeah, 21 touches in the box versus 3. I can't really argue with that, right?
Kind of an astonishing number, to be honest. I mean, the way it was so overwhelmingly in favor of Everton, and to your point, Shan, it felt like we were our own worst enemy in terms of finishing, and then Villa, they just had so few chances, created so little, even though they had a foothold in that middle part of the first half in terms of they were possessing it and controlling the game a little bit more. It didn't amount to anything material.
Ready for a great night out? Top concerts are headed to Jiffy Lube Live this September. Don't miss the chance to see your favorite artists like A Day to Remember, Hozier, Suicide Boys, Tyler Childers, Keith Urban, and many more. Nothing beats a great night of live music with your friends. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Head to livenation.com to see the full list of shows and get your tickets today. That's livenation.com.
It makes you wonder kind of if we started off a little differently with some different personnel and maybe we're a little bit more aggressive in some areas. Maybe we get hit back behind us, but maybe we break through. Who knows? But I will say this, very interesting sub to start the second half off by Emery. They bring in Gasson, who is a physical beast. I really wanted us to look at him. I thought he was a good right-sided player that could also make up, kind of play as a backup center forward as well. For Tielemans, though, who's kind of one of your few midfielders that can get in there, get on the ball and control it, but they already had numbers in midfield, so they just moved some people around. It is a big change. I wouldn't say we necessarily started off amazing, but we certainly had a chance early.
Yeah, and this is Jack Grealish being influential, drawing 2 men to try to defend him, and he lays it off for Garner, trying to recreate his earlier goal this season. Might have been a cross. I actually think it was a cross, but it's a decent ball in. Beto, I mean, he's got to get something on this. It's such a good ball. I think he could have realistically scored again. 0.29 XG. That's another big chance. Very close range that if he just touches it, there's a high likelihood that finds the back of the net.
We got to figure out a better way, though, when we get the ball wide to Jack to make everything work around him. You see Garner getting in the half space a couple times. It amounts to some danger. Is that the right way to do it? I don't know. Something to talk about here kind of at the end of things. 50th minute, almost a disaster.
Yeah, completely against the run of play. We almost just fold and concede a terrible goal. I was in our Discord during the match, and I saw people freaking out, and I thought for sure that we had actually conceded because people were a little bit ahead.
We got to do better there.
Yeah, 100%. But I was very scared, and then I saw that it was ultimately not a goal. So that said, from that point forward, Villa definitely starts to enforce their point, pushing for an opportunity.
A lot of it's Gasson, but still, man, Dean goes in the book in the 56th. And you're thinking both of their fullbacks are on yellows. I'm surprised they didn't go to Madsen at that point. And you're thinking, all right, just to your point earlier, James, you got Jack, you got Ndiaye on bookends, right? I mean, can we get them the ball and make things happen? I don't know. 57th minute, this is one where free kicks, we're dangerous on free kicks. This is a very bad mishit, though, where he kind of bailed out on it by Dewsbury Hall. Did not have the best match, I don't think, today. Ball eventually finds Beto. I don't mind the cutback kind of dribble here. He just doesn't pull it off. Some people are saying shoot it. Okay, I don't know. But again, Shan, to your point, just not his day. Really, probably the strangest moment in the match was this chance in the 61st, just in terms of the results.
Yeah. I mean, this was definitely a moment of Scott Sterling would be proud. So you look at Patience from Everton down the left. Dewsbury Hall makes a run off the back shoulder. He does a really good job, by the way, in his body position to get, of course, the sturdy legged John McGinn.
Get off me.
Get off of him, yeah. And then he cracks that cross, kind of a shot. Funny enough, I thought Emi really mishandled this when you look at the highlights. And then, of course, the only person that really gets hurt by this is Lucas Digne. And then there's some kind of, mess in the box. And then Jake O'Brien, I think, has the softest pass in the history of football I've ever seen to try to shoot it. And then, of course, Tim actually does a pretty good job here to then get a corner. But then, oh my God, Lucas Digne, poor guy. I hate the booing too, by the way, every time he touches the ball. It's not his fault that he left. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So our fan base needs to do better there.
Some people said it was because he was flopping.
No, he definitely wasn't flopping there. I can tell you that after seeing that knot on his head. But oh my God,
the knot on the head was crazy. The booing, really actually made me angry. One of the most likable players we've had in recent memory who got ran out of town by the worst manager maybe in our history, who was then sacked just a couple weeks later, and you're booing the guy? What is going on?
He didn't want to leave.
That is disgraceful.
No, he said so himself. I mean, love affair with the club, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, I don't understand that at all. 64th minute. Dewsbury Hall gets a yellow for pulling down McGinn. Part of this is also not the best matchup for Dewsbury Hall, I think, today. When he was going in on battles against guys, he got trucked a couple times. He's just not the biggest guy. I know it's important for him to get on the ball and get us more control in the match. We needed more of that today. Not all his fault. Some of the stuff is what's happening behind him. But most importantly, in the 65th minute, a moment of pure magic, in my opinion. I mean, I could do this all day if you wanted, James. Don't give me that expression.
We've got a whole season to get through these magic puns.
I mean, just conjured up some incredible things. David Moyes just brings out his book, finds his spell, casts it over everyone, and what does he produce? Merlin, the Wizard Röhl, comes in for Tim, the Enchanter. I mean, you can't write this stuff up. I think when we got linked with Merlin initially, we dreamed of this scenario. I think you can debate whether a wizard's better than an enchanter. I will say this, though. We still have an issue with this team where we don't have a true defensive mid. I mean, I know Merlin has shown an ability to play deeper with Germany's youth teams and get on the ball, and that's great, but I'm still worried about this guy's physicality. He's a big, strong guy, but he does not play hard, and he's not going to win a lot of battles yet. It just makes me a little nervous. Tim played a good first half. I think, though, he kind of slowed down and kind of seemed to lose it a little bit with some of the adjustments Unai Emery made. Do we agree?
For sure. I think he faded, and I think he was right to get substituted. He would have been my first sub as well, so points to Moyes for that. And was excited to see what Merlin would conjure up, to your point,
See, Ryan. You can't stop doing it either. I mean, he was okay, right? I mean, he showed some quality in some moments.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought he kind of grew into it. He looked, understandably, maybe a little nervous on the occasion, his full debut for Everton, but eventually kind of found his footing and did fine. Grealish gets this yellow for dissent. He's been getting his shirt practically ripped off his back all day. Gasson had kind of stabbed at it. Jack went down, didn't get the call, and so Jack freaked out a little bit.
It was a horrible call, too. I mean, it's like awful call.
We should just have a referendum on Simon Hooper today. Stinker from Simon Hooper. It was horrible. And he let a lot go, actually, I thought, but just in really bizarre moments, and then would stop the game and disrupt the rhythm at random points as well. Just really inconsistent and felt very one-sided in favor of Villa to me.
Yeah, he was terrible. But what was even more terrible is the challenge that came in the 69th minute from Emi Buendia. I mean, I'm surprised VAR didn't review that. I thought it was pretty nasty on Ndiaye. Thank goodness that he's okay. And then, of course, he comes right off because Unai Emery is smart enough to know that let's just get this guy off the pitch for none other than Villa's number 9, Harvey Elliott. What a number to give that guy. Going into the 71st, though, this is probably, when we felt like, just Emi was just truly deserved an Emi after today. You look at Jack Grealish's cross, a Keane, what a great header. And then you look, just the ridiculous body angle that Emi kind of just did once the header came. It's an incredible save from Emi Martínez, and I can really feel for Michael Keane today, who was, he wasn't playing forward, but by far he was our most threatening, forward today when you think of just the chances he was putting in.
He hammered that. It's a tremendous save. And then in the 73rd minute, this might have even been a little late for me. Barry comes in for Beto. I think we can look back on it a little bit. Beto obviously is a handful for anyone to deal with. he brings a lot to the table outside of just scoring goals and whatnot. But it's hard to argue with these numbers. He just didn't have as good a day. But on a better day, he maybe bangs in 2, and it's a big difference. The sad part is some of these attempts, it wasn't even close. He didn't pull it off. The thing about Beto that you love and you kind of hate is he never kind of plays within himself. You know what I mean? He plays like he's the greatest striker in the world. So he'll try stuff that is higher degree of difficulty that he can't always pull off. He does sometimes do it, and other times he just looks very badly. But, God, you got 8 touches in the box here, 0 for 4 and shots on target, doesn't hit the target. Unfortunately, the one fantastic finish he had that was saved didn't count. That XG versus post-shot XG number is going to look pretty bad when you put up a 1.08. Lost some ground duels, got his head on most stuff in the air. It's debatable whether Barry really did a whole lot when he came in here, though. And that's kind of the problem here. It's like, all right, fine, he didn't play great. Bring in the other guy to make a big difference, and he didn't. Maybe we didn't play to his strengths. I don't know. We've talked a lot about Beto this one, too. Do we just write it off as kind of a stinker?
I think you have to. I think the final product was just not there for him today, but I liked a lot of the things he did. The positions he got himself in were quite good. His movement off the ball was good. His energy levels, his relentlessness, kind of leading the line off the ball, I thought was really high quality. So, yeah, look, we've had our fair share of striker problems over the years, and I think, Ryan, your point is a good one that Barry didn't exactly set the world alight when he came on either. So, as I've said on almost every post-match this season, this is going to be an ongoing battle. Both players will have their ups and downs and likely start their fair share of games, and that is just healthy competition that I think this side is desperately needed. So Beto will be very motivated to up his level in the coming weeks to continue to play because Barry will be breathing down his neck, and that's what we want.
I find these subs interesting, too, in the 83rd, by the way. Is this Unai Emery just saying, we're not getting anything out of this one. Let's just close up shop a little bit?
Yeah, you go into the 81st. He brings in Daniel Mallon for Ollie Watkins, which is kind of an odd sub given that he's the only striker on the pitch. But then, of course, really to just kind of steady the ship, he brings in none other than Victor Lindelof for Bogarde, who I thought had a decent match, all things considered. So, of course, they had 300 midfielders on the pitch anyway, so it's not like they really needed to put another midfielder on. But then, of course, this chance comes in kind of the 88th minute. Everton pushing late. Really good press, by the way, before this. And then Ghana's kind of the one that gets the touch that goes straight to Merlin Röhl. And then Merlin Röhl actually does a really good job of just one-touching this Tierno Barry in space. So really good awareness from him. And then Tierno Barry, just a good play defensively from Tyrone Mings. Garner forces that corner from distance. And then, of course, Keane just inches away from turning in Grealish's cross. And I think really just tried to push a little bit. Just really the winner can never come. And it ends up just being kind of a very entertaining 0-0.
Wouldn't have been unjust for Keane to get on the end of that one. And he wasn't that far. It's just a little off balance. And it was a good cross by Jack, too. You could tell Jack was thinking, wow, this could be it. And place would have gone nuts if that was the case, too.
Man, that moment toward the end of stoppage time where Grealish got it in the half space and the crowd just, you could feel the anticipation building, and then he kind of tries to take on a player and hits it off himself out of bounds. And it kind of petered out from there, unfortunately. Anticlimactic.
Yeah, before we get into too much of the tactics and whatnot into it, I think it's worth revisiting some of the numbers at the end of the match because they were one-sided. I mean, 46 touches in the box versus 8 for Everton. I put up the duel stats on here. I mean, we won way more duels, won a higher percentage of ground aerials, way more successful dribbles. They only had 2 successful dribbles. And by the way, you look at that lineup in Aston Villa, like that's a problem for them. Like they need to get some of those guys worked in that can beat someone off the dribble because otherwise, I think, it was a bit of a byproduct of us kind of keeping the fullbacks back a little bit too, but it kept us solid. I mean, looking at their chances and where they were, I mean, they didn't have a ton of great chances, and we had quite a high percentage of our stuff in the box.
I mean, 75% of our shots came from inside the box. I think almost half of Villa's came from outside, and they hardly had any to speak of anyway. So you talk about, I think it's fair to comment on the fullbacks. Look, you've got Garner and Jake O'Brien, neither of whom are fullbacks playing in those positions. But the offensive output, despite that, is still quite good. It's just the end product wasn't there today. And therefore, it is really disappointing, and we have some listener comments that kind of enforce that fact. But overall, we were our own worst enemy today. A little bit better finishing, and this is a very lopsided blowout at home. And
yeah,
and Emi Martínez had a phenomenal performance. I think he only got credit for 2 saves, but 2 incredible saves.
Like you said, James, I mean, Emi, incredible today. I think on another day, we get the 3 points, but at the same time, right, I think as we've talked about in the prior 2 pods, we might have been a little bit fortunate, right, to get 3 points on those other 2 days, right? So the season finds a way of kind of evening itself out in these kind of moments. And like I said, international break, you see a little bit of rust from some of the guys. I think we had a good mix of folks that were in the squad, out of the squad. But overall, I mean, I love the intent from us, right? Even though the execution wasn't at times there. Like you mentioned, how many times have we had a team that was this kind of aggressive within the box and not just kind of, just trying to kind of look at scraps, right, to nick a 1-0 victory. So credit to the team for at least battling.
And there were some good performances today. I just don't know if there was any really stellar performances. Maybe it was just overshadowed by finishing and saving. I mean, that's it. A lot of people, what's the point of the XG concept, right? I mean, it's to isolate the quality of chances, and if you don't finish or the other team's keeper, I mean, how many times have we been on the other end of that because Pickford's so good? And that's a little bit what it was. But there were some good individual performances, I thought.
Yeah, I'll start with mine, and I'm keeping the train going. So Jimmy Garner is my good performance for today. 72 touches. He led all players, 4 key passes, 90% pass accuracy, 3 tackles, 2 clearances, 1 block shot, 3 for 5 on crosses, 2 for 4 on long balls. As we mentioned, thought did pretty good on corners when he took them. And I think once again, just did a pretty good job defensively. Didn't really ever see kind of Matty Cash on his side give too much of a threat. Thought he was good positionally. Didn't make any crazy mistakes. And I think you have to just give credit to, guys like Jake and Jimmy Garner and others that play out of position. It's a pretty thankless job. And then do a good job for us. So credit to Jimmy Garner again. And it's just really good to see the guy healthy. I think for as many injuries as he's had coming into the season, it's just really good to see the guy fit and getting playing time.
Couldn't agree more. I think it's remarkable. I think he's actually started the season incredibly well. I know that he has his flaws as a player in midfield. He's been playing out of position and played a couple games in midfield. He has been very, very good, I think, overall. I mean, I know it's kind of your bit, Shan, to pick him as the good performance, but it's also valid and deserved in most of those cases. So hats off to Jimmy. I went with Jack Grealish again. It's kind of a layup. I mean, he had 60 touches, which was second on the team, 88% passing, took care of the ball extraordinarily well, 5 key passes, creative as ever, 3 tackles. He drew a couple of fouls. 0.4 XA on the day, expected assists, which is a relatively decent number based off of course, those 5 key passes, which were good. And I know our listeners can't see it, but his heat map continues to be exactly what you want from Jack Grealish, firmly in that half space, the final third, getting involved. It does feel a little bit like Moyes has made that the singular focus of the team is like get Jack the ball in those areas. But how can you argue when he's Premier League Player of the Month for August and producing it at this level?
I went with Ndiaye. I mean, I had to admit, everyone seemed to have some limitations to how great they played. I think those guys were all good. Jack was good, but we didn't score. Ndiaye, same thing. I mean, the problem here is that so many of these numbers are defensive contributions. I feel like I'm watching Jesper Lindstrom's line from last year, without the offense, of course. But led the team in defensive contributions at 14. 10 recoveries, also led the team. Won the most duels with 10. 2 chances, XA of 0.18. 95% passing, led the team. Was fouled 4 times, led the team. 3 for 6 in dribbles, led the team. But no real impact on the box again. You know, a lot of the attack was down Everton's left side, 43% of the time, only 34% down the right side. Some of that is intentional, I think. And it makes sense. I mean, you feed the ball to Jack, people got to back off on him. It allows us to maybe get set up and do some things. I don't think we did that very well today and capitalize maybe as much as we could, but those guys are both good. So that's the thing. I mean, guys, do you pick a guy because he didn't play as well as maybe he's capable of playing, or that he's just good? These guys are just good. I mean, that's all it really has to do with it. Lots of different listener comments on this one. I think there are a lot of different takes on this game. It's just a bit of an odd game, in my opinion. Calden, the universe's check bounced on Kino's aerial XG. Boy, that was weird, right? I mean, weren't pushed up that often, but he had a bunch of shots on goal and almost scored on 2 of them.
He's got that striker's instinct. We know that all too well over the past few years. And yeah, accumulated 0.55 XG today on his 4 shots. He was also everywhere on set pieces and 4 for 6 on long balls, 4 for 7 in aerials to boot. Again, the kind of 5-alarm fire people were ringing on the news of Jared Branthwaite's injury at the start of the season have been largely mitigated by, I think, Keane's strong performances. I still think he immediately probably drops when JB's healthy. Nevertheless, he's been rock solid, and when you get the offensive contributions as well, when he's getting on the end of those balls, there's a lot of, teams are going to have big problems trying to mark Everton on set pieces this season. When you throw Merlin in there as well, there's some tall guys in the mix.
Is part of the reason why Moyes is maybe playing some more defensive players at fullback because of the inability for Keane and Tark to play in a high line? I just kind of wonder, we really struggled to get the ball in the right places to start in the build-up down the middle of the midfield. Now, granted, Villa made some choices where they didn't pick wider players and they clogged the midfield a little bit, and I would do the same thing. I'd either press the heck out of this Everton team because I think some of the ball handlers are questionable in the back, but you're not going to provide a lot of verticality from your fullback, so that kind of makes sense. But, I mean, I just kind of wonder what it looks like with some more aggression on the wide spaces and maybe playing some different guys. And so credit to Kino. I think if you sub him out immediately when JB comes back, I just wonder what it looks like on the left side. I understand we don't have a right back, so it doesn't matter on the right side, but you know what I mean? I mean, even if Asnu is fully healthy, do you look better with James Garner in the midfield and another left back that maybe could combine a little bit more with Jack?
I think it's a really good problem to have, to be debating this when we just had a ton of shots and a really good offensive game, and recognizing that this is nowhere near the ceiling of this Everton team. We get players actually playing their positions and get our best players back in our back line. That is a really exciting thing to think about. But I think you're right, Ryan. If you get Asnu in there, Jake seems like he's going to be the de facto right back, but even if you just have a little bit more balance on one side of the defense on going forward up and down the pitch, it unlocks a lot of different things for Everton. So it's exciting to think about.
Yeah, and then we get to the next comment by Joe5494. Should have scored, had many chances, and Villa offered very little, so that's promising defensively. Referee was giving everything to Aston Villa, seemingly broken up the game and disrupted all flow. Really bad game management. Can't say that enough about Simon Hooper. As clumsy as Beto looks, when he went off, we lost a lot of threat. Barry offered little, though it would have been difficult to jump into that game. I think the one thing that's a talking point from that is, as bad as Beto was, do we discount the threat at times that he creates and causes for others? You look at from just a pure physical standpoint, right, how much of a time he was giving Ezri Konsa and Tyrone Mings, and I think he was really just very unlucky on some of those whistles he was not getting from the ref. But then, of course, you don't really see that with Barry, right, because he's just more of a vertical threat and somebody that will probably just hold it up and quickly pass it off.
Yeah, I think Beto's Barry struggled a little bit with the physicality. I also think he didn't seem like he got great instruction before coming on as a sub, especially off the ball. I looked a little bit confused, but Moyes seems to have his finger on the pulse of like where Beto's warranted, where you want that physicality. He's just kind of battling the back line of the opposition, where you might want a little bit more finesse. That could be where Barry gets his chances. So we'll see how that continues to develop.
And it's a collective thing. I mean, you can't just expect Barry to go in and single-handedly lead the defense or whatnot. But I don't think there's any doubt. I think he looked a bit lost out there. And I don't know what to say about that. I would have liked us to have a little bit more control in the second half. But I don't know. I mean, some of this leads to what Ben's saying. It's not just about Barry.
Yeah, Ben Joe Eddie from X. A frustrating one. We started well enough, but Villa grew into the game and asserted themselves. We defended our box well, had enough chances. Keane almost had a brace. Beto, wasteful. I thought Merlin had a good cameo. Thoughts on that one? Merlin today, his full debut, he was 3 for 6 in ground duels, won a couple of aerials. Bit of a clunky touch early on, but after that, I think he grew a little bit more comfortable and looked at home.
Well, it's important to say that they may have grew into the game a little bit. They had some control of the game in the second half of the game, but they didn't get any shots on goal, so it didn't really matter. I think that's probably what's a little disappointing. You're hoping to maybe really push up and go for it, but maybe Moyes isn't willing to take those risks, or the team isn't. Look, Merlin was exactly what I thought we'd see. I think he looked better when he dropped deeper, and we got a little control when he was in there. He's not a natural defensive mid. Defending in the defensive third, I thought that was obvious. I mean, he was scanning a lot. He has maybe a little more awareness than Tim does, but I can't expect him to seamlessly drop into the formation perfectly. I mean, he's got to gain some chemistry, and I'm concerned about the physicality of the Premier League. I think it's going to be something he has to adjust to. I know he's a big guy, so you saw moments of flick-ons and some skill. You could talk about Ghana almost killing someone with his high shots. Merlin almost put someone probably through the stands. Yeah, he's got skill. He's obviously massive. He's a good athlete. I don't know. It's great. Glad to see him in there. I don't know who the future partner is with Ghana, though.
It's a fair question. I also think this game in particular, as it got close to the final whistle, got even more physical. And it was physical from the first whistle.
True.
It's a tough game to just sort of plop yourself in on your full debut and get up to speed and really clash the way that these guys were battling the entire time. So I'll give him a little bit of grace. Of course, it's still very early, but I do think, something we'll continue to monitor.
You saw the talent, though, right? And
100%.
I think if we're down or really need to get on the ball a little bit better, I like to see him in there. I think to be critical and well, let's hit the next comment too, and then we'll kind of get into what I think the real debate is on just the utilization of some of the other players, because it still seems like the attack still seems very unbalanced to me. In the back line, you've got some injuries, I get it, but I think it's fair to question the impact of the subs and, Moyes' kind of approach in the second half.
Yeah, so the last comment by Jose Sparks Joy at Jose Sparks Joy at Blue Sky Social. Disappointing to not pick up 3, but have to come away with more confidence in the squad. Attack showing real signs. Defense was solid despite no JB and Miko. Even accounting for Aston Villa's anemic attack, XG gods can be harsh at times, but more of that, please. I think, as you said here, James, 20 shots in a game, only have done it 10 times since 2020, and I imagine most of those came in 2020. So for us, I think it's a good sign, right? And I think it kind of goes into, really when you think of it as a collective whole, for us to kind of be annoyed at a 0-0 draw against Aston Villa has kind of shown how far we've come in a short period of time.
Haven't beat Villa since 2016 in the Premier League. We're talking 20 shots in a game. We're talking Everton putting together coherent, strong performances within the first 10 games of a season, which, that feels a little bit foreign. It's been a while since we haven't just completely stalled out of the gate. So there are reasons for positivity, but there are also some things that we can maybe nitpick and critique. And I think the first one of those is the usage of Iliman Ndiaye. His first shot of the match came in added time. He's got 4 shots on the season, 2 of which were tap-in goals. His defensive numbers are up, and his heat map today, especially when you contrast it with Jack Grealish, would encourage everyone to go take a look. Villa did attack down their left, our right side today, so I think that probably pinned Ndiaye back a little bit, but you also saw some incredible dynamism from him, explosiveness, what he can do when he gets the ball, and it's just happening far too often, way too deep.
Yeah, great. I mean, he was getting it deep all last year too, but he was effective and more direct. I mean, what is the point of spinning off someone to be able to beat guys when you can't get to the goal mouth and you can't threaten the goal? And it's not that he's not creative. I mean, he is, but you're turning him into a winger. He's not a winger. Even when people say, well, he plays right side for Senegal, he really doesn't. He plays in the midfield for the most part. He tucks in. And look, to me, my concern was, fine, if you're going to play him out on the right side, I disagree with that. I think that's dumb. But you got to have someone out to the right with him. Like, we show that he can defend. But it didn't happen much today. And I guess I missed this incredible threat they have with Buendia on the left side. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just, it's absurd to me. And so I had problems in the window when you brought in, you paid all this money for Dewsbury Hall, who's a good player, and then you force Ndiaye to the right. That's your answer? But we did then get a right wing in Dibbling, who hasn't even played yet. So to me, I think we're missing a trick here. I think in this particular match, Dewsbury Hall comes off for me, for sure. He's not so good. He shouldn't be taken off. I mean, happy birthday for turning 27, buddy. But, like, I'm sorry. I mean, it's a more direct goal threat on the left side. And Dewsbury Hall got bodied plenty of time today. Now, look, if you want to take some risk and drop him deeper, because he is composed on the ball, and maybe help him get on the ball, I disagree with that approach, too, because I don't think he's good enough. But if you want to get on the ball, he can provide some of that ahead of Merlin, who I'm glad that he had nice training. That's great. But, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous if that's your logic. I just think we're missing a trick. Why spend the money on Dibbling, very good young player, when you could have got a really good young right back and actually play with someone that can do both? Like, there are right backs out there that can defend and attack. And you just saw the limitations of Jake today. I mean, you saw amazing play for a 6'6" guy. I mean, he's so talented and so obvious, but there's limitations there from the shot, from the one time he came back to him, his cross. On the weak shot, too, Beto is wide open, like staring at him. And how do you miss that guy? And I don't blame that for him, but there's just something very disjointed about this. And I will say this, too. When Jack's getting the ball left and the double comes, what's the plan to deal with that? And I felt like we didn't do a very good job of supporting him all the time there. And maybe Moyes just doesn't want to take risks, right? He's willing to take the point or whatnot, but there's too much talent in there to not make it work more coherently. Dibbling not playing is a real concern for me. And, I mean, maybe Asnu's still injured, but I find it very interesting that you trust Merlin Röhl to come in and you don't trust Asnu, who's been with the club now for weeks, and maybe he's still hurt, but he was on the bench. I think it'd be very interesting if you move Jimmy Garner into center mid and have Asnu out there to team up with Grealish. Maybe that looks very different. And Grealish had all day when he dropped deeper. Just saying. I don't know. Curious your thoughts, guys.
I think it's all valid critiques, but when you put it against the backdrop of a game that we absolutely should have won and were not dominant, but were comfortably the better side, it doesn't carry as much weight as if we were struggling and under pressure the entire match, and we'll see how it develops. But I mean, I think the critiques of the recruitment policy have been well established, and I think they're totally valid. I think you give Jake an opportunity to move to center back. Like, we're just assuming he will not play center back probably this season, which is, again, like mismanagement and bad strategy to have to force this guy to play what will amount to, in theory, a season and a half, developing at a position that is not where he should be playing long term. And if you get someone there who can contribute more going forward on both sides of the ball, that helps Ndiaye. That helps also the left side develop a little bit more. There's more space. So I hear your points, Ryan. I think they're well founded, but I'm also having a hard time getting too riled up when we've started the season so well.
I guess we've started the season well, right? Well, but I guess I look at the stats in this particular number. Here's our XG breakdown. Beto, 1.08. Michael Keane, 0.55 offset pieces. Ghana Gay, 0.1. Jack Grealish, 0.09. There's no goal threat other than the center forward today. Something's not right about that, man. And again, we played fine. You know what I mean? Like, we maybe deserved more than a point. I think the numbers would indicate it. But when you got the ball in the box that much, I mean, is Aston Villa such a good defensive team in their own box? I don't know. I just feel like something's unbalanced on this team. And it may take some time, and that's okay. But I look at this team and I still don't understand why there's not a legitimate right back and not a legitimate six. Merlin Röhl is not a six. I mean, maybe on the ball. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes against teams that can get on the ball a little bit better against us. And some guys maybe just had a bad game.
I do think that Jack needs to start shooting the ball more, though, because I think for what happens. He does such a great job of getting all these defenders to kind of just drape over him. And there are moments where I feel like he's almost trying to build the play up too much to where you're just kind of in a spot, right? Where, I understand he might not be as strong on the other foot, but it's just a place where I think he's still skilled enough to get a good shot on net, right? So for me, that's kind of where I have a little bit of frustration with him on a day like today, right? Where I felt like he had some of those chances if he did it earlier. But I also recognize, too, the way he plays is what opens up a lot of kind of these other situations for us.
Well, let's talk about those other situations real quick. I think that's part of my problem. Like, you've got a great guy out there that can get on the ball, the people will back off. They'll come over to you with a double. You know that's coming. So what can we do to get more out of that? And I don't think it's... Look, goals win games. I mean, it's hard to argue the XG numbers, guys. I mean, I know, but I don't know. It's just something very disjointed about it, and I think we need to do better. Again, let's give Moyes another week with these guys. He's learning about this team, too, in terms of how they play together. There's lots of new faces, too. I mean, you knew there was going to be some transition here. You can't make that many changes to a side and not see some lack of balance. I think I'm also just excited to see some of the younger players, and, I'm just interested to see how they fit in. I'll say this, too. I would not be surprised if eventually at one point he puts Ndiaye at center forward. I think that would be a really interesting wrinkle with this team with Dibbling out to the right side. It just changes it a little, changes the story, changes the approach a little bit, in a way. And I think that would be fascinating. But anyway, more to come. At least there's some options now.
Yeah, and I think it's a very astute comment that with the attacking options that we have, the quality of attacking options we have, the weight can be shared a little bit more evenly. We should see Grealish, Ndiaye, hopefully Dibbling as well, getting good goal-scoring opportunities, creating across the front line. It can't just all be sort of a creative funnel that all goes directly to the striker.
Yeah, and it can be oriented around Jack, too, like the way it starts, And yes, you're right, it can't all be the striker. Well, I'll ask you guys this question real quick, too, without belaboring the point too much. Did Moyes use his bench well enough today? I think we looked at the bench today and said, wow, we actually have some options off there. Charlie, Dibbling, neither of which came on. Could maybe someone I just feel like a little more movement, a little more energy, a little more directness maybe in some cases would have been merited. Thoughts?
I mean, even when Moyes was at West Ham, though, right, he wasn't a guy that used subs much. So I think from my standpoint, I don't expect him to be extraordinary when it comes to the management of the game on the side of using our players now. But at the same time, I think the only thing I could be frustrated about today is just being conservative. And I think the only issue I really have with him tactically is this desire to keep Kieran Dewsbury Hall in for the entire game. And I don't know if that's just kind of a short sample size of what we've seen so far, but at the end of the day, I really think if he's going to put Ndiaye out to the right wing, you got to give the guy some leadway to put him in the center and switch. And if you can't switch Dewsbury Hall, like you said, Ryan, basically back to where Merlin played today, you got to take him out, right? And he's just not. I don't know where he's going to get this stock to be a guy that plays 90 minutes every game, because now we have, as we've talked about just the last 10 minutes, a ton of options, right? And we didn't even speak about Charlie, right? So it's just there are guys out there that can easily play not only for a 30 or 40-minute cameo, but you're going to see a lot of those guys in the cup match against Wolves, I imagine. But it's just kind of a situation where I don't want even Jack to be like that, where Jack should be pulled if he's not having a good game, right? And that's my fear with those two guys, right? Whereas I think Moyes has kind of has this love affair with Jack, which, to his credit, Premier League Player of the Month. I'm really excited about him, but there should be nobody, including Ndiaye, that has this ability to not be taken off or be put out of position, right?
I just like to see what it looked like with Dewsbury Hall on the bench every now and then. He does give his composure, and he's a really important player for us at times, but not every match necessarily merits that. And if you have a guy like Merlin Röhl who you acquire that can get deeper on the ball and get comfortable, now you maybe have that with him and Ghana. So you don't need it as much from that third midfielder. And maybe a guy like Charlie even gives you more initiative. But man, I just want to see Ndiaye grab the ball and run down the middle at the ball. That's a goal threat. Not having to come on his left foot or going around the corner and serving crosses. That's all.
All entirely valid, and I hope that we do start to see some tweaks and small changes from the manager in the weeks ahead. Ryan, to your point a few minutes ago about testing ourselves against teams who are a little bit better on the ball, we certainly have that in our next match, which is, of course, the Anfield Merseyside derby against Liverpool. Then we have a match away again at Molineux, Deja Vu in the Carabao Cup. We play West Ham at home. We play Palace, and then we go away to the Etihad against Manchester City. Shan, talk us through, unfortunately, what we have to look forward to in the Merseyside derby at Anfield.
Well, I'm really excited, James, for a 5:30 a.m. kickoff Mountain Time for that one. But we're going to make the short walk or drive, whatever your mode of transportation is. I know a lot of Evertonians are walking from Mooresdale nowadays to the train station to the game. But, I mean, Liverpool are firing all cylinders, right? And all things, in all seriousness, of course, spending incredible amounts of money. I don't want to hear anything about net spend with Liverpool and things like that. In terms of American dollars, it looks like 565 million US dollars. And of course, they revitalized the attack significantly. Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, who's obviously done a really good job for them so far, and of course, stealing Alexander Isak on the final hour from Newcastle. And for us, they've, of course, strengthened in a few other spots, but I don't really think they've done much at their center backs. I still think they're a team that, you look at Arsenal, right? That was kind of a very boring match, but just a moment of brilliance from Dominic to get that win. So I think for us, and I think we've seen throughout the years, right, this is such a unique game, right, because it doesn't really matter kind of form going into it. It's just kind of almost any given Sunday. And of course, the game's being played on Saturday. But I feel pretty good about the way we're playing right now. I think Moyes has the team playing a little bit conservative, and I think tactically, we'll set up well for a game like that. I mean, you look at how we played at the final game at Goodison. I thought we actually had a pretty good game. We were really unlucky with the goals that we gave up. But I'm kind of excited because I think it's a good test for us, right? And we're going into that game with 7 points, right? So we're not in this kind of danger zone or this doom and gloom. I think we're going in for it to be a good litmus test. I think the only thing I just worry about is no injuries and no suspensions, right? Because of how physical these games get. But at the same time, right, we have a lot of depth. So I hope he uses it for a game like that because the guys on both sides are going to expend a ton of energy.
If Mikolenko's back, I mean, it might be kind of interesting. I think Jack Grealish gives us a dynamic, especially as a wind-up guy, too. That could be interesting for them. And I like a couple of our matchups. I think we can damage them and hurt them a little bit. I think their center-back pairing is overrated at this point. I think Virgil in particular. They're dynamic, though. It's hard to say. And they did have some injuries versus Arsenal. I think some of these guys played on international breaks, so it'll be interesting to look at. I'll also mention the Premier League match after that against West Ham. I think Thomas Souček took a straight red card. We know how important he is to them. Maybe he just didn't want to face his mentor, his hero in David Moyes, which we appreciate that as West Ham gets clobbered by Tottenham today 3-0. Sorry, I couldn't help bring that one up. And the fact that you said Deja Vu and Molineux in the same line today, James, really should make something very impressive there. But yeah, I'm under no illusions, though. I don't think we're going to do all that well against Liverpool, but we never seem to at that side of that place. But hopefully people are still hyped up for the match and have some level of optimism. I think they have more reason to be optimistic in this one than they've had in a while.
100%. It's never a game where you go in as an Everton fan expecting a great result at that incredibly smelly venue that they call home.
It really is.
We certainly have more reason for hope than we have had in a long time, as you said, Ryan, very well. So that's going to do it for us on this episode. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, leave us a rating and review. Podcast platform of choice. Follow us on socials. All of the links are in the description. We're on YouTube as well, just the audio, but check that out. Subscribe to us on there as well. Leave us a comment. We like to read them. Otherwise, we'll be with you following the derby. Looking forward to it. Until then, until next time, up the Toffees.